Welcome back to Mike Ferry's podcast, The Original. My name is Tony Smith, speaker and coach for the Mike Ferry Organization, and Mike asked me to record and fill in for this podcast today. Obviously, I'm not at the studio at the office. I'm at my home office here in Southern California. And in typical fashion, Mike Ferry said, Tony, I would like you to share with whoever is willing to watch this podcast some of the thoughts that you've had about what have you learned. Okay, that's a loaded question, and what have I learned? Hopefully it's a lot. Sometimes it doesn't feel like as much as it should be. But I've been around Mike Ferry since 1989. Okay, as a student. I've been a student of Mike's for 36 years. Major portion of it just as a real estate salesperson, like many of you watching here today. And then I've been a coach for Mike for the last 21 years, and a speaker for the last 9 or 10 years. Virtually, Mike Ferry has been my mentor for 36 years. Now, if you've spent any time around Mike at all, you've learned, and you will always hear, that he had 3 major mentors in his life: Earl Nightingale, Gunther Klaus, and Mike Vance. Mike will never speak in public without mentioning those people because they were such an influence on Mike for many, many years. Well, I didn't have the good fortune of those 3 gentlemen in my life. I wished I had. But I have the good fortune of having Mike Ferry in mine. And so he has been my mentor. I'm not sure if I've been a good student or not. He would probably say that many times I wasn't paying attention, but I'm working hard at it. So here's the question. Mike says, what have you learned in relationship to becoming a successful real estate agent? All right. The first thing I wrote down is I am clear that there's a difference between hearing and learning. For those of you that have been around Mike for a long time, you've been to many of his workshops, you have his system at your fingertips. You've heard a lot of it. But the question about what have you actually learned, now that's something, all right? So I've put a lot of thought into this, about what have I learned in my 36 years with Mike Ferry, okay? There's a few things that I wanted to share with you today, so if you'll bear with me on that, we'll see if it can help you too. The first thing I learned is the importance of your environment. The importance of your environment, okay? Mike is trying to have us understand that our success, our growth, our development, a major factor in that is the environment we choose to keep. All right. Now, I'm not talking about what kind of environment did you grow up with as a kid. We all had one of those. All right. Everybody might say my home environment wasn't great when I was growing up. We all had one. Okay. But when we talk about environment, there's controllable parts of your environment. You can control the space that you decide to work in. I'm not saying which company that. I understand all that, but you have control of your workspace. Is your desk clean and clear? Is your office set up and designed around listing properties? Is it chaotic? You know, you can really set up your space and your work environment. I see over my shoulder a calendar. You can calendar out your year in and year out, or you can just wing it. How much control do you have over the environment you choose to work in when it comes to listing and selling real estate? Right? You can control the environment in your head, okay? Like, there is so much stuff going on out there that I would say maybe doesn't support a good environment in our head. We've got our work to do when it comes to that, okay? You can control what you let in. Okay, I was taught, how much rent do you charge for the people you let in your head? In today's world, you know, you open up the computer and man, you can let a flood of anyone in. Who's guarding that information? Who's the gatekeeper? Right? There's a million people out there trying to tell you how to sell real estate at a high level. There's a million voices. There's a million coaches. There's a million training companies. Okay? I don't know about you, but if I were going to buy a piece of fine art, I know that the original is more valuable than a reproduction. We are the original. So you can control your work environment. You can control the environment that in your head with what you read and what you watch and what you listen to. And you can control the environment of the people you hang around. Okay, not everybody, because we have circumstances where it's not everybody, right? But you can control the environment of the people that you hang out with. It's one of the beauties of the Mike Ferry Sales System. Mike has put together a group of agents that are all majority, positive mindset people trying to grow, willing to share ideas, big thinkers, big producers naturally. And then you've got Mike at the top of this list and Sabrina and all the great coaches. There's an incredible group of people that you can hang out with. Are you operating in a really strong mastermind group? Do you have powerful people around you? Are you seeking out top producing agents? Are you seeking out wealthy people in your community? Hang out with them. Okay, I have come to learn how valuable the controllable part of your environment is. Control it. Okay. The second thing I've learned is that our industry, the industry we've chosen, real estate sales, is an industry that actually allows for a lack of production. Okay. Now, I'm not going negative here, but the industry we've chosen, there's 1.5, maybe 1.6 million real estate agents in the world today. Okay, I think we're the largest workforce besides Walmart or something, right? Like, if you really think about it, we have the largest group of people working, realtors, all right? And we have the per person productivity that has continued to decline. It's declining year after year. Does this baffle you? I started back in 1989. When I started, there was just under 4 million sales that took place that year. Okay, the interest rate was like 7% and rising. All right, an average agent, I think if I remember right, was doing 12 transactions each on average. And then back then, half of the agents were working aggressively, primarily as a listing agent, and half of the agents were working primarily with buyers. Okay, so let's flash forward to today. We have 1.6 million real estate agents. Over half of them haven't done a transaction in the last 12 months. The per person productivity is less than 4. So does it baffle you that with all the advancements of technology and all the incredible things going on, we're supposed to be smarter and stronger and faster, that the per person productivity has declined? And the number of people working on listing property versus working with buyers has shifted. 5% of the agents out there really work on listing property, and 95% of the agents spend most of their time working on the buyers. Doesn't that baffle you? Okay. The industry, the training in the industry. I understand the challenges that brokers have today. Okay, if they don't like what you do, you're going to leave and drag a couple of your friends over, and you're going to demand some 99% commission somewhere else. I can appreciate that challenge, but we also know that we need to be held accountable. We need to be confronted at times. We naturally need to learn sales skills. The industry is set up, and they're okay if you don't produce. Now, what does that tell me? If the industry is okay if I don't produce, then I have to work harder to produce, don't I? Like, if the industry is designed that it's okay, then I've got to really dig in to produce, right? How many people surround you in your office at 7 o'clock in the morning practicing and rehearsing scripts? How many people are even in your office at 10 o'clock in the morning? Okay? It takes a lot more self-responsibility if you want to produce at a high level. Okay? I've really come to learn that you've got to take control of it. The industry isn't going to help you in that regard. Okay? I've learned that to become a great agent, there's really some characteristics that our great agents have, and you need to consider having those characteristics. There's just some commonalities that top producers have, and if I can have those commonalities, then I can succeed too. And there's three major ones. You need to have or develop for yourself an unwavering, burning desire to achieve something. You got to have a desire to achieve something. Do you have some strong production goals in front of you? Do you have some strong income goals in front of you driving you forward? Do you have some lifetime goals? Are you looking for a bigger house? Do you want better vacations? Do you want a stronger real estate portfolio? Do you want to be number one in your company? What is driving you forward? You've got to have a burning desire to achieve something. Okay? The opposite of that is apathy. Apathy is, I don't care, I'll do my best. Okay? The second characteristic that I've come to learn is that you need to have or develop really strong work ethic. Okay, now that's another loaded word today, right? It appears that today work ethic is a fleeting thing. But the reality is there's a certain amount of work that's required to succeed at a high level. Once again, is your office empty until 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning? Is that the work ethic that's required today? Right? Do you show up at the office at 7:30, 8 o'clock and jump right into a productive schedule? Do you work a full work day until 5 p.m.? Can you log in 40 hours of hard work each week? Or do you follow around the masses that take 2-hour lunches, right? They come in at 10 and leave at 2. They work from home, which is interesting, doing 2 or 3 transactions. Okay? And then the third characteristic that I've learned is that to be good at what you do, you have to have sales skills and develop a strong presentation and a presence when you present. Okay? Now you'll notice that I said develop. What I've learned is you didn't have to be born with these things. I wasn't. I was born with work ethic. Okay? I was not born with an unwavering burning desire in the beginning, and I certainly was not born with sales skills. I don't know about you. Were you? Okay? But these skills, these things can be developed. Right? All of these things can be developed. Ask yourself, of the 3, which one am I struggling with? Work ethic, burning desire, or the skills and personality of a great salesperson? Okay? You can develop those things. I've really come to learn that the best agents in the world are the ones that learn how to deal with curveballs, getting knocked down, failure. Okay? It sounds a bit cliche, but persistence and your ability to dust yourself up and get back up again, right? Mike would frame it in something like, you need to learn to keep your emotions between the lines. Emotions between the lines. Agents that can't ever figure out how to keep their emotions between the lines and pick themselves up after they get knocked down generally don't succeed. Okay? Is it safe? Is it safer for me to run a business expecting that I'm never going to get knocked down? Or is it safer for me to learn how to get up after I've been knocked down? A listing cancels and 2 deals fall apart in the same week. Can I pick myself up after that? It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. Some agents will disappear with that for weeks at a time because of that failure or that loss. And some agents will pick themselves right back and get right back on the horse tomorrow and go back to work. Okay? Emotions between the lines. Right? Maybe you have to understand a little plan for yourself. How do you pick yourself up? What do you do when you get knocked down? Right? Not uncommon. Mike will say things like start at 0 every day. That's one way to pick yourself back up, is to teach yourself to start back at 0 every day. Ask yourself, agents are generally one of 2 ways. Okay? Agents will generally be depressed for way too long when something bad happens, which is not starting at 0. Or they'll generally celebrate way too long when something good happens, which is not starting at 0. Which one are you? Okay, this is so obvious to me now that as soon as you figure it out, Tony, when I get knocked down, I tend to have a problem with it for a week or 2. We have to get you past that. Well, no, Tony, when I get a commission check, I tend to celebrate that $10,000 too long and I don't go back to work. Right? I've really come to understand this whole concept with real estate agents about keeping your emotions between the lines and your ability to deal with curveballs. I made a note of all the skills we have. There's all of these skills. Of all the skills we have, Mike has taught me that the listing presentation is the one that ultimately pays the most. Yes, you got to learn to generate and handle objections and follow up and all those things. But when it comes to you meeting with that seller and you sitting and presenting, you're vying for that contract. That portion of what we do is one of the most valuable things you will ever do in your real estate career. And then here's the irony. The irony of it is we watch agents spend massive amounts of time. How do I get more leads? How do I get more leads? What do I do to get more leads? They'll spend massive amounts of time, which yes, you have to generate more leads. But you also have to ask yourself, how much time am I spending to perfect and develop and really, really get good at a listing presentation? And usually it's lopsided. An agent will spend this much time working on, leads and prospecting, and they'll spend this much time working on the nuances of a great presentation. Okay? I was taught, and maybe it was a coach back in the day, I don't know. I can't remember, but I was taught early on that you either have a listing appointment today or you don't. Okay? If you have one, you give it your best shot. You go in there, you take our scripts, you go to work, give it your best shot, you critique that performance. If you don't have a listing appointment, why not practice it one time today? Just practice it. Put your camera on video selfie mode, put it across your desk, pretend that phone is the seller, take our scripts and practice it. If you practiced a listing presentation every single day you work, are you going to get better? Okay, Mike has done 7,000 or 8,000 presentations, workshops, events. He's good at it. Okay, he's good at it because he's done 7,000 or 8,000 of them. How many listing presentations have you done this year so far? How many did you do last year? At that rate, how much better could you possibly get? Get better faster. Gosh, if I could get you to do anything, would be to perfect your presentation. All right. I also know that the stronger your presentation gets, the better prospector you become. The better you get at following up on leads, because everything sounds like an opportunity when you're a good presenter. When you're not, everything sounds like a problem. All right. So I've learned it. Hopefully you've learned it too. Hopefully you're working on it. Okay. I've learned that in our industry, there are two components that in our lifetime end up paying us the most money. In our lifetime, there's two things that end up paying us the most money. One is our database. Okay, if you look at our best producers, we have the good fortune of having and working with and studying the best producers in the universe. Mike has trained them, so we get to study and follow along. And what I've learned is studying is that the lifetime earnings of a great real estate agent, 30, 35, 40, sometimes 50% of the lifetime earnings of a real estate agent will come from their database. 30, 40, 50% maybe of their earnings lifetime will come from their database. So it's this incredible opportunity. Have you ever got to the end of a year and you say, we ask you to source your business and where did all your deals come from? And you source it out and you're looking and you're counting up and you go, I did 12 deals and wow, 6 of them came from my database. Okay, and wow, I didn't really work on that so much. Man, thank you, database. Thanks for giving me some money. Okay. Have you ever had this happen? Okay. We believe that if you get 1,000 people together and you work it properly, you can get that 1,000 people to give you a 10% return, which is 100 transactions a year. Okay. I don't know about you, but 100 transactions a year is a boatload of money. But on the grander scale, 30% minimum of your business lifetime money can come from a database. Are you treating it that way? All right. Especially in today's world. I mean, in today's world, if spam and technology and your phone, people guarding their calls and all this stuff, do you need more and more people that would have your phone number saved in their phone? And of course, the answer is yes. We need more people that say, oh, Tony Smith is calling, I'm going to answer that. Versus, who? Spam? Okay. Well, my contacts are dropping. Are you working your database? It's this golden opportunity that's also a risk. With AI today, okay, AI is the next magic formula on the horizon right now. Okay. Have you thought about the day that your AI robot's going to go take listings for you? Not sure when that's going to happen, but we know the power of it. It's powerful, okay? The risk that I see is that if you don't take care of your database, it's easier for the world to peck away at it. They can take those people from you. If you don't communicate, if you don't protect it, it is easier and easier for the world to get a hold of it. I don't know if that bothers you, but it makes me a little nervous, okay? And then the second major place, okay? I have learned from Mike Ferry that the majority of my transactions will come from lead follow-up. Lead follow-up, the majority. We say things like 70% of your business will come from lead follow-up and 30% will come from a customer calling you or from that first contact and they say, yes, let's do it. But, 70% from lead follow-up. Okay, now that's a magnificent thing, but it's also a risky thing if we're not good at it. If we don't really come to understand proper lead follow-up, if we're not aggressive enough, consistent enough, if we're not understanding the rules of when to throw a lead away and what to keep and how to work them, aren't we risking 70% of our income? Okay, so if you put those two things together, 35% of my lifetime earnings from my database and 70% of this year's deals will come from lead follow-up. If either of those two things is broken in your business, you probably should fix those. They should be a high priority to fix those because there's so much of the money that you make in your career from those two things, right? Think about it, okay? It's one of those places I call a blessing and a curse. It's only a curse if you don't work on it, right? I've really come to understand over the last 35 years the value of listing agent versus buyer's agent. Okay, now that was an easy transition for me personally. Some people it's harder, but for me it was an easy transition to understand I'd like to list properties versus work with buyers all the time, right? But I understand the struggle. And what I've come to learn is the reason that the majority of agents end up being pushed or railroaded or end up gravitating to work with buyers primarily is because of the level of skill and responsibility required to be a listing agent. Okay, and man, have we watched that needle move over the last 30 years. Like I mentioned earlier, average per person productivity when I started was 10 or 12. Now it's less than 3 or 4. Okay, right? When I started, a lot of agents worked with listing agents, and a lot worked with buyers. Now it's almost all work with buyers and very few great listing agents. The repetitious boredom, the skills required, the discipline, the schedule, the skill, the habits that are required to become a great listing agent are so much greater than the habits required to work with buyers. Don't get mad. It's just the truth. And then there's the blinding flash of the obvious that it's almost impossible to remove the inefficiencies of working with a buyer. In today's time, when you get in the car and you're going to go show 3 homes, it takes a long time. Traffic and people and organization. It's inefficient, and there's not a lot you can do about that. Okay, now I can hear you out there. Some of you are masters with buyers and you've really gotten efficient with it. Good for you, okay? But the reality is if the listing agent world has shrunk down to only a few agents doing it. If you choose to take that road, which we suggest, and you're willing to apply the discipline, the habit, the skill, the consistency, the pay is off the charts. Okay? And then I also understand how easy it is to go from one year to the next and with the intention of being a listing agent, but you get shoved into working with buyers again for another year because of those disciplines and those habits. You've got to draw a line in the sand and you've got to take proaction right now. Okay? We have the tool and solution for that. Okay? Man, I couldn't be more clear on that. I've also learned some commonalities. Okay? Mike has taught us some very functional commonalities. Okay? One is you need to learn to start at zero every day. Okay? You've got to reset and start over again each day. Two, you've got to really learn to fight to keep things simple because everything is so complicated and the world is trying to make it more complicated, right? Does it bother you that with the advancements of technology, everything feels more complex? It's supposed to be more simple? I don't know, okay? But you have to fight to do that. I have come to learn that a basic work schedule of a listing agent is not complicated. It really isn't. If you step back, it's not complicated. Is it boring at times? Yes. Okay. Are there times where it's not so much fun and there's not just action packed? Yes. But the pay is worth it. Okay. So you have to recognize keeping things simple, starting at zero every day. All right. I've come to learn that there are some truths about just wealthy people. This is something that as we study and grow and develop, there are some things that all the wealthy people seem to do. So if all the wealthy rich people do it, shouldn't I do it? I wrote down how many wealthy people, rich people, Gates and Jobs and Buffett and Mike Ferry and these mega industry people. How many of them say that the mornings don't matter? Okay? Have you read any books that says it doesn't matter when you get up? Come to work at 11 o'clock. I mean, we can rewind the tape clear back to Benjamin Franklin said the early bird gets the worm, right? But wealthy people control their mornings. Okay? Not people that are not so wealthy don't control their mornings. How much control do you have over your mornings? If you can control the morning, from the time you get up until noon, if you can control that space, and all the rich people will tell you that they control that space. If I would like to be wealthier, I should control that space. Two, I've learned that all the wealthy people, have you ever watched a wealthy person that says they don't read and study and try to learn? Okay, all the wealthy people are voracious readers. They read all the time. Mike Ferry reads a couple hundred books a year. He has for 50 years. Okay? So if wealthy people are on this voracious, relentless thirst for learning and reading and getting involved, shouldn't we do that? Are you reading all the time? Okay, are you working to learn something all the time? Are you really trying to expand your horizons? Okay, if rich people do it, I'm going to do that. Okay, I've learned that pretty much every wealthy person that I've ever watched or studied understands visualization and affirmations. Their self-talk. Do you talk to yourself right? Okay, it's very common analyticals struggle with affirmations. Why? Well, it's not true, Tony. I'm saying something that's not true. Well, if you're gonna lie to yourself on the positive. Okay, like, I'm too fat, I'm too short, I'm too ugly, I don't like prospecting. Those are all affirmations too. Okay, so do you have a strong approach to talking better to yourself and visualizing the outcome? So if I can do what the wealthy people do I have a better shot? Okay, so I think about things like this. Okay, this is 36 years, so I couldn't be more like I have these books. This is our sales system book. These are all the how-to sell a lot of real estate. If you want to sell a lot of real estate, this book gives you virtually every tool you need how to. For those of you that are in coaching and that follow along with us, this book has the answers to sell a lot of real estate. And then this book are the scripts. This book has all the things that we need to learn how to say, the sales skills that we need, what to say and how to say it. That's all found here. So, when I talk about the original, I'm 36 years into this and I'm more excited about it than ever. Okay? I haven't shared this with Mike Ferry, but I am more passionate about the work that we do, that he does, that we're going to continue to do than I've been ever, because the original is still the answer. This is here. For those of you that are close to us with this stuff, go back here. The answers are there. For those of you that might not be in that, you might consider getting involved. We have the solution for that. Okay? So the last thing I wrote down is that of all the things I've learned, could go on and on and on, there's still so much more to learn. And I can't wait to jump into the next thing that I want to learn from Mike and through the system. Okay. I want to thank Mike for this opportunity to spend a little time with you here today. I hope some of these thoughts help you. Let's move on. Let's move forward. We have some exciting things coming up with this podcast, so stay tuned because there is more to come. Thanks for your time.